when you tune into the news or even on YouTube, people speak in a way that they might not speak in day-to-day life. And I was wondering the history behind that, and has it always been like this?
It has. It has always been like this. Yes. So the radio was created in the 1930s. And when it was created, radio announcers had several hats they had to wear because they basically did everything. They did the announcements, like the news announcements. They did the ads, so they would just read the ads. There wouldn't, like today, it's like you've got separate ads, right? But they were the person who had to sell the product, and they also had to be the person who knew about the music. If this was like a radio station with music, they had to be the person who would introduce the music. And so the idea was that that person should have some showmanship. And it was actually quite intentional that announcers should sound like somebody that you would only hear on the radio. So this kind of sound was cultivated that was very much around like I'm a kind of showman and a master of being able to wear different hats, that has stuck with that industry. And yet at the same time, now you wouldn't coach somebody to sound like that, right? So it's definitely evolved over time. And there has been a big push, I feel like, especially in the last 20 years, especially since the advent of podcasting, in addition to broadcasting. There's been a real advent around like, let's try to sound as authentic as possible. And so we don't want to sound like traditional radio hosts or traditional broadcast hosts. We don't want to sound like journalists. We want to sound like people who have some information and who are kind of friendly and trustworthy at the same time. And how do we find that balance?